Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson, this is Full Time Devils, this is the Celta Vigo preview, and today I'm delighted to be joined by these people because they've turned up, and that's Paul, and that's Dave. Welcome everybody, how are y'all doing?
Excellent, thank you.
Decent.
Right, let's get into what we're here to talk about. It is the big one, the stakes are too damn high for Celta Vigo on Thursday. Are you nervous? Are you excited? Do you think we're going through?
Howson, this
Paul.
is Full Time Devils.
Oh yeah, who's got the sound on? About to turn that off. Paul, are you nervous? Are you excited? Are we going through?
Well, those are three questions, the answer to which I think is yes to all of them. I am indeed nervous about this game. I think, obviously, having a 1-0 win, a 1-0 lead from the away leg in European competition is always a good thing. But it's a narrow lead. Inherently, it's a narrow lead. It's not like we can be entirely confident that Celta, even though they weren't particularly impressive in Vigo, are not going to get a goal at Old Trafford and then suddenly everything changes. We've seen that kind of thing happen plenty of times. So on that front, I'm nervous. It's the second leg of a semi-final in European competition, so of course it's exciting, especially since Mourinho has decided this is literally the only thing that has ever mattered in his life and has completely given up on the league. So it's all or nothing. So, I mean, very high stakes, very exciting. And the final question, are we going to go through? Obviously, none of us know the answer to that question yet, but you would say that the numbers are in our favour, certainly.
David, nervous, excited, are we going through?
It's squeaky bum time. Not really that nervous. I think this is just another semi-final for Manchester United. It's exciting more than nerves.
How casual in the corner over there. Semi-finals.
Simple, right? Yeah, semi-finals we win those easy. Paul Scholes scores crackers from about 30 yards against Barcelona. You know, those are the types of games that, you know, being a United fan, you know, is so great. The atmosphere goes up, and I think that's a big thing. You know, in Old Trafford, the atmosphere needs to be good. Needs to be supporting the players. It was a little bit, you know, the Rostov game, a little bit nervy. You know, with the goal that United scored, and then it sort of settled down. So an early goal would be absolutely vitally important to calm the crowd down. I think if they nick that early goal, then it'll be 3-4-0. I think that's a big thing for Mourinho. It's starting fast. Whenever we've played well at home this season in the Europa League, especially, it's when we've come out like absolutely flying, and we've really pressurised our opposition. We've played a 4-2-3-1, we've gone aggressive, and we've started with the right tempo and the right mindset. And I think that's for the players, for the manager, for everything, is about being the right mindset to avoid being nervous. Why get yourself into a situation where it is, you know, 80 minutes and it's still 0-0, it's still flat? Go out fast, score a goal, and then it'll be a lot more comfortable.
Early goal has been massive for us this season, but did you really just compare a semi-final in the Europa League with Celta Vigo to 2008 Barcelona semi-final for the Champions League? Did you really do that?
I just did that.
Just checking.
Why not? It's a European trophy. It's a big thing. It'll go into the United history. It'll be another thing, another part of the trophy cabinet, and it is important. Of course, it's important to get back into the Champions League. It almost is one of the biggest games we've seen since Sir Alex Ferguson. It's that magnitude. But nerves, no. Excitement, yes.
All right, Paul, agree with that?
I mean, I completely agree about the magnitude of the game. I think it's certainly the game with the most resting on it that we've had for such a long time, because not being in the Champions League next season is going to make such a mess of the season. I mean, people talk about player recruitment, and obviously that's a factor. Then they'll point to last summer and say, well, we attracted Paul Pogba and Zlatan Ibrahimovic without Champions League football, but there are only so many summers in a row you can pull the come on, we're Man United, of course we're going to get back to the top. You can't just keep doing that. If it's, you know, if we didn't get Champions League football next season, that'd be one season in 4 in the Champions League, and that's starting to be very distinctly a pattern. So that's massive, and I totally agree with Dave about the kind of historic nature of it. I mean, it is the European League Cup. It is football detention, but nonetheless, it's a trophy United have never won, and it would be a big thing to win it. It'd be big for the players. We'd almost have the kind of 1991 situation of last season we won the FA Cup, which they did in 1990. Then in 1991 they won the Cup Winners' Cup, and Fergie said they'd win the league the season after. He was 1 year out, but you know, you can almost sense then that we're talking about that would be 3 trophies and a Community Shield in the previous 2 seasons, and a sense that there's some momentum under the surface in what's been such a kind of stop-start campaign is absolutely massive. And the reason I'm kind of as nervous as I am excited is I'm yet to be convinced about the mentality of this United side. On the one hand, you point at the cup competitions and say, well, in last season's FA Cup and this season's League Cup, we showed that we can do it in the peak moments. But actually, in the League Cup final, we needed Zlatan to bail us out of a pretty dismal performance. And in the league this season, you know, people are joking about Spurs bottling their title challenge, even though they've kind of only really made a race of it by dint of winning 9 in a row. It's hardly a bottle job. But actually, United have bottled 4th place time after time after time this season. So they clearly have it in them to blow it when they need to perform.
Do you know the first trophy I remember as winners was the Cup Winners' Cup in '91, and it did feel like something really big then. And maybe we've been, well, we have. There's no maybe about it. We've been massively spoiled in the preceding 26 years, but I do think that you're right. This could spark off something really good for Manchester United. My only gripe with it really is that I think there's a lot of people want to win this purely for the fact that it gets us the Champions League, and not because this is a competition that people want to win. What do you think on that?
I kind of disagree with that. I think it's just history. It's one of these things that we need to start appreciating the Europa League. Yeah, the money isn't there in the Champions League, but again, it's UEFA's responsibility to build it up a little bit more. It's a good tournament. There's been some fascinating sides down the years. You know, think Sevilla, who are now competitive in the Champions League, have won that tournament 3 years in a row. You know, beating Liverpool, which is a great result for any Manchester United fan. And I think it's this attitude about certain competitions and this isn't good enough. You know, the League Cup is a trophy. We won the League Cup. That's something that's still a massive thing. We won the League Cup. Yeah, we didn't perform very well. Yeah, Zlatan absolutely bailed us out and it was a brilliant performance from the big Swede. But we still won it. It's still another one that we can stick in the trophy cabinet. It's still and again, it's going back to that how we were massively spoilt winning league title after league title after league title. We're in a different phase now of Manchester United, and maybe we just need to get a little bit happier when we win the League Cup, when we win the FA Cup, when we win the Europa League. It's just a mentality thing for Manchester United fans.
Standards, I think, Dave. Sorry,
the problem with that, because I completely agree, like, I'm all about celebrating the good times. I think that is, it doesn't, like the League Cup, I enjoyed the League Cup definitely at least as much as the FA Cup last season. It was well, not quite, because seeing Rooney and Carrick complete the set was pretty magical, but even just seeing the young players, how happy they were to win the League Cup, reminded me of 2005, was it, when Ronaldo and Rooney won their first trophy together, and that looked like it might be the start of something. But it is important to win trophies, it really is, and there aren't that many trophies on offer. Like this season, you got a maximum of 4 English teams are going to win a trophy of some of a meaningful description of an elite level. I guess 5. One of them could have won the Champions League, but this is a very small percentage of teams win anything, and the sport thing's massive, because if you support almost any team in the whole country, you almost never see your team win a trophy. So I do think there's something to be said to appreciating just the sheer kind of trophiness of it. Although ultimately, in the kind of in the rebuilding job, if our aim is to kind of reassert ourselves as a dominant force in English football, ultimately the winning part of it in and of itself is going to be less important than what the implications of that are. But I think just enjoying the moment is precious.
Right then, let's hit the comments and see what some of you guys are saying. Rayesh says, let's convert nervousness into positive energy, hit them hard from the start. I do agree, every time we've got an early goal, we've looked great at home. Dave Lewis says, can't become Liverpool, won't worry about that. Guled Issue says, I wouldn't be surprised if Jose sells Marshall. There's actually a lot of talk about Marshall in the comments. Some people saying, get rid of him, he's not good enough, not got world-class potential. I completely disagree with you and all that. Eagle says, old school winning cups is important, especially with this squad. That is not quite right. People saying can't wait for the transfer window. Some people saying Chelsea are going to fudge it up. It's not quite what they're saying. Next season. But we're not going to get into that. We'll talk about that at the end of the season when we do a review. Right, next one that we've got to talk about is Axel Tuanzebe had a great debut. I don't think we're overhyping what he did here against Alexis Sanchez. I didn't think he put a foot wrong whatsoever. He was told to stay tight to Alexis Sanchez. He did that. Didn't let him have any sort of space whatsoever. Do you think Tuanzebe has forced his way into Jose Mourinho's plans either for the very end of this season and possibly next season? And do you think he's going to help with the youth block that he seems to have in place? David?
I think, yeah, he's definitely forced himself into Mourinho's plans next season. It was a fantastic debut. Mourinho going for the defensive fullback to sort of deal with Alexis Sanchez was a very good job. Again, Mourinho getting it right in these bigger games. Yes, tactically, there are other aspects that Mourinho should have done to, attack Arsenal in a better way. Maybe going with two forwards instead of playing Anthony Martial isolated up top. But Tuanzebe was brilliant. He tracked him absolutely everywhere. And I think for Mourinho, when he's given, he gives a young player a job and this young player does it to the absolute letter of the law, it was brilliant. I loved his strength. I loved his speed. His aggression was fantastic. What, did he knock Sanchez over twice? Absolutely incredible. And Sanchez's game by numbers against United was absolutely rubbish. Didn't score, didn't assist, failed to get a shot on target, only created a single chance from very, very deep in midfield and completed 78% of his passes. For a player that's been one of the best players in the Premier League at 19 years old, to have him pretty much in your back pocket is incredible. And I think it will show I'd love to see him with Eric Bailly. I think that's the big thing. Him and Eric Bailly next season could be a nice little partnership there. Bailly's a little bit more aggressive too, and Xabi looks a little bit more calmer, a little bit more like he's always in control. And for a young player, that is a cracking characteristic to have. And his game by numbers against Arsenal was defensively fantastic. 2 blocks, 3 interceptions, 4 clearances, 8 tackles, winning 50% of those. Just a brilliant debut. I don't think there's anything else I can say about him.
Paul, do you think like one or two things that really still sticks out about Mourinho not being 100% perfect for United? Do you think that performances like Tuanzebe's can help change that? Do you think it will change that?
That's a really big question. I mean, I just want to pick Dave up on something. He said, again, Mourinho getting it right in the big games. 0 goals scored against the top 6 in the league.
Defensively, Paul, is what I mean. I mean, like, nullifying the opposition's strengths. I agree. Scoring goals is the issue. I think United, when they do drop back to this, like, 6-man defence that everyone is absolutely hammering, that's not a bad thing. The best teams in Europe that play a 4-4-2, Juve, Atletico, they all drop back to that shape. But the thing is, they have 2 players up top. And that's the problem. That at the moment, Mourinho's a little bit backward in his thinking about how to counter-attack. And what he needs to do this summer is he needs to watch Monaco, he needs to watch Atletico, he needs to watch Juve and see how they break and see that they always have 2 players up top to allow the counter-attack.
I don't entirely disagree, except that I would say that Chelsea beat us 4-0 and even Arsenal beat us 2-0. So I kind of agree in principle. And I think actually you're right in that a big part of the reason that we conceded goals in this game was a lack of an outball rather than the kind of defensive structure in and of itself. I think, you mentioned the numbers for Tuanzebe and Sanchez, and it's really interesting because it's almost like, in terms of, there's a big debate in the stats and analytics community about how you measure defensive performance. And it's almost like Tuanzebe's defensive numbers are the less relevant set of stats there, aren't they?
Exactly.
It's what he did to Sanchez's attacking numbers that is so impressive. One of the things that I was super, super impressed with Tuanzebe was his use of the ball. Like him and Mata playing the ball out from the back, relieving the pressure. He's got it all, and he potentially could have a big future. Whether Mourinho will, because let's face it, the only reason Tuanzebe did a number on Sanchez, which he could have done, you see the potential there. You see what Mourinho has at his disposal, and yet it is in a dead rubber at the end of the season where he's deployed. So I think our praise for Mourinho has to be conditional, because there's many games this season where he could have played Tuanzebe, but it was only when his back four was absolutely decimated by injury, and also he didn't even care about the result of the game. That's when Tuanzebe got his chance. So this sounds like I'm super down on Mourinho. I'm not at all. I think he's done a lot right this season, but I also think he's done a lot wrong this season, and this is almost a kind of the exception that proves the rule, that this is the kind of thing he should have been doing all season long and has been really reluctant to do.
Let's go back to the comments. There's a couple of people talking in there. Dave Lewis says he needs to get more forward for me if he wants to play right back. He's not right back, he's a centre half, and I agree with what both of you guys are saying. He's very reminiscent of Rio Ferdinand for me, in that completely calm, stays on his feet, strong, good with the ball. People asking, was Herrera injured or was he just rested? I think it was just a rest. Smalling, Jones, Shaw, Fellaini, Rooney have become a liability, says Rohit. Marshall's got bags of potential, will become world class, says Cameron. If he sorts out his mentality, I disagree with this mentality thing about Marshall. Just because he doesn't smile, he's just that kind of guy, I think.
Doesn't like fun.
I think it's actually a big deal about the way that Martial gets talked about, because if you analyze his personality, if you know anything about kind of the way defense mechanisms develop in the human psyche to in different situations, like it's very clear that Martial has just got a mentality whereby his emotions are kept in check. If you think about the times he's shown emotion, it's extremely evident what's in there under the circumstance. The semi-final of the FA Cup last season, talk about moments to be appreciated. He absolutely lost the run of himself, and you can almost see him kind of unconsciously catching himself and forcing himself back into his normal mode. But this is nothing to do with a kind of weak mentality or anything, or a mentality that doesn't care. It's about maintaining composure in order to find a way to perform or even just survive the very complicated life that footballers lead.
You got to remember, this is a kid that came on as a teenager to score his debut for Manchester United against Liverpool and did this. When he did so, right? That was as much as the emotion that you saw after that wonderful goal that he scored. So I think chill out on the mentality for Martial. Right, we're going to go to the starting 11 now. This is a competition, and for some reason, McCullough's still top. I don't know how we're going to nobble him, but McCullough's top with 119 points. Dave is second with 102. Rachel, who's only been on one preview, has got 90 points. John Shin's on 89. Paul, you're on 77. I'm on 62. We need to double that somehow. Then we've got Mohammed, Andy, Josh here, blah, 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 all the way down to Greg Johnson, who's been on 99 previews and only got 4 points. Incredible. So, give us your start 11. Paul, let's go with yours first. What are you going to pick for Thursday night?
I've sent it to Chris, and I'm pretty sure this is what I said because I haven't got it written down in front of me. Romero in goal, not Dave in goal, because we live in a strange parallel universe where you don't play your best keeper in the most important game in the club. It's recent, in the last 3 years at the club. What a strange thing. Valencia at right back. Blind and Bailly, my thinking there is just that they were the two that didn't play against Arsenal, and I don't know that he's going to want to put Jones or Smalling. I guess it would be Jones, but anyway. But actually, he partnered Smalling with Bailly. It's a whole thing. Blind and Bailly, Darmian left back, which is strange, but it seems to be what Mourinho does in these games. Herrera, Pogba, Fellaini. I don't see that with Fellaini suspended in the league. I don't see there's any way he's going to go with a two-man midfield here. I'm sort of with Dave. I think he probably should, but I don't think he will. I think that's going to be the midfield three. And then this is the one where I think it gets really debatable. Rashford up front is almost an automatic selection, but I think out of all the places in the starting 11, it is these two. Even if you play a 4-2-3-1, it's the two wide attacking players where there's a lot of potential options. I've picked Lingard purely because he didn't play against Arsenal, and to me that was a big signal. And then I think I've picked Mata because I think he'll like the control that Mata gives him, the kind of the rest of the front. There's a lot of play, Lingard and Rashford around Mata mean that there's a lot of speed to stretch defences. So I think he'll be happy to compromise on the speed. I kind of wonder if Mkhitaryan was in form. I think he picked Mkhitaryan for his kind of interceptions and for how well he leads the press when he's playing well. But Mkhitaryan's form's dipped terribly recently, and I wonder whether we'll see him not be played here, although he has been good in the Europa League. So that's Mata versus Mkhitaryan is my number one. I don't know which one it's going to be, but that's the 11 I've gone for.
I think you're right. All those four attacking positions, it's kind of like, who knows, is it? Like, Dave, give us... you didn't go too bad last time, didn't you? You picked David De Gea in there instead of Romero, knowing that Romero is the Europa League goalkeeper.
And you know what? I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go David De Gea in goal. I feel like Mourinho will crack this time.
3 points.
Of the pressure of
points
this
for everyone
game
else.
And the performance that he put in against Arsenal, that he made a number of wonderful saves. I think David De Gea in goal, going to go with it. Back four, I don't think it's going to change. Valencia, Bailly, Blind and Darmian. That's kind of what Mourinho's first choice back four is right now. I think that Blind has been fantastic in recent weeks. Again, coming in at centre-back. He's the fifth choice centre-back, but he still looks like one of the best, one of the most composed. I think the thing with Blind as well, when he's at centre-back, is his ability to use the ball correctly. Use it in the right moments. You go to the quarter-final against Anderlecht. He's the guy that plays the ball up to Marouane Fellaini, who knocks it down to Marcus Rashford. That connection there with Fellaini as a number 10 that worked so well in the first leg against Celta Vigo, want to see that again. But Blind to Fellaini is a good route. It's a good route to get over the Celta Vigo midfielders and defenders, and then get into that back four. That United had a number of opportunities where they kept on breaking like 4v4 versus Celta Vigo, and that was because of the Fellaini long ball. But anyway, into midfielder Herrera, Pogba. That's it's going to happen. The two defensive midfielders, and then a three behind Marcus Rashford of Marouane Fellaini as a number 10, but more of a destructive target man, number 10. Lingard on the right hand side and Mkhitaryan on the left-hand side. Again, Mkhitaryan, it's quite interesting. His form in an attacking sense hasn't been great, but defensively he's put quite a good shift in terms of the game against Celta Vigo, the first leg. No player on the pitch won more tackles on him. And against Arsenal at the weekend, he made the most interceptions when he was on the pitch. So it's one of these things where defensively, I think he's giving Mourinho something that he likes. So I think he'll continue. I'd like to see Mata in there, but again, Mata coming back from injury, does it make sense to play him again? Probably not. But I think it will be all about Paul Pogba controlling in midfield. Fantastic in that first leg, and it's going to be a massive asset for United, both in a ball-playing sense, but also injecting a little bit of tempo. In the first leg, he completed the most dribbles on the pitch, 5 out of 5, which is very, very impressive for any player, let alone a central midfielder in such a congested zone. So I think it's going to be a massive game for Paul Pogba. And maybe the game to sort of turn around to all these haters, all these players, he's not scored goals, he's not got assists, to really show, I'm affecting a massive game for Manchester United.
Creativity and movement, I think that's going to be the key for us on Thursday night. Right, Dave, let's talk about Celta Vigo. What do you know about them? How are they going to hurt us? Are they going to hurt us? Take it away.
Well, again, at the weekend, they rested all the players. That's what they did the previous weekend against Bilbao. This time they played Malaga. They lost 3-0. The only real takeaway from that game, Sandro Ramirez, who is ex-Barcelona, moved to Malaga on a free transfer. He's quite similar to Marcus Rashford, how he plays. He's quite a nimble forward, got a few skills, got a Cruyff turn in his locker. He had a fantastic game, only ended the game with 1 goal, but arguably could have scored a hat-trick against Celta Vigo, and he was very direct. So basically, Marcus Rashford just needs to take that, picking up the ball in front of their back four and going at them. We saw him win that free kick with the ball at his feet, driving at the Celta Vigo defence. We need to see it like that as much as possible from Marcus Rashford, drifting to the left, picking up the ball, drifting to the right, picking up the ball, opening up that space, and maybe allowing Marouane Fellaini to become the nominal forward. Will work really well against Celta Vigo, but we should be beating this side. It's a good side. We saw Aspas was all right in the first leg. Sistu looked like he had energy, looked like he had the ability to take people on, but ultimately lacked a little bit of end product. Again, this team has to be pressurised from the outset, and I don't think they'll be able to deal with Manchester United.
Paul, anybody worry in the first leg that you think we need to be looking at this time?
I thought maybe Sisto was probably their most kind of potent attacking threat in that first leg. He obviously scored against us twice for Midtjylland last season. I thought Aspas was actually really disappointing. Well, not disappointing. Disappointing from a Vigo perspective. I thought he had a really poor game against us in the first leg. But obviously, he's proved in La Liga that he's a goal-scoring threat. I mean, you said, can we kind of learn anything from what they've been doing in the league recently? They gave up on the league even earlier than Mourinho did. They've just they really have put all their eggs in the Europa League basket. I think they're now 12th in La Liga, and that's a lot of that's to do with a kind of losing streak that they've been on since they were kind of progressing to these latter stages of the Europa League. Daniel Vaz is another significant threat for them, and has been a kind of major component of their team for a while. But they're full of ex-Liverpool and ex-City, and we just all I want is for someone to just go, shh, are you the ref again? That's it. Like, so long as we win and someone does that, I'm happy.
I absolutely love that from Marcus Rashford. Right, before I come to these guys and ask for their score predictions, you guys get me your score predictions in the comments below. Right, David, what score do you think it's going to be?
I want United to win 4-0. I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be exciting, but it's not going to be that way. We all know what happens at home in the Premier League. It's going to be a 1-1 draw. United are going to go through 2-1 on aggregate.
Dave, you mentioned that Blint to Fellaini is a good route. If you had to give assign a kind of numerical value to that route, is there a number that you would assign to it?
5 out of 7.
I give it a 4 maybe. A 4 out of 5.
Because it sounds a bit Route 1 to me.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, again, why Route 1 football scores goals? You get, with Marouane Fellaini on your side, why not? Use the asset you've got. We haven't got an attacking midfielder like Antoine Griezmann. We've got Marouane Fellaini. So let's use Marouane Fellaini for what he does well.
I mean, you say we've got Marouane Fellaini. It's not like we haven't got options in attacking midfield that are maybe a bit more guileful and subtle.
Come on, Paul. We all know Marouane Fellaini is the best option and should be United captain next season.
Shut up, Paul. What's your score prediction?
2-0 United.
Oof. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to say they're going to get an early goal and everyone's going to go, oh no. And then we're going to come back and we're going to make it interesting. Right, what's you guys saying in the comments? Srinvaz says 2-1. Jesse says 0-0. Uktar says 1-1. North Star says 4-1. Joe Hab getting a little carried away saying 40-0. 2-0 says Neelay. 6-0 says Joe Wood. Blackburn says Ryan Polton. 1-all says Medalvaz. 2-0, 2-0, 4-1, 1-0, 0-0, 7-1. People getting absolutely mental there in the comments. But we will be there on Thursday night. Make sure you join us. Make sure you give these guys a follow on the old Twitters. And let us know what score, what you think, and who's going to be facing us in the final. Is it going to be Ajax, or are Leon going to pull some absolute mental comeback out and find Manchester United waiting for them in Stockholm? Anyway, follow, and hopefully we'll see you in Stockholm. See you later.